Hi and welcome back. I'm Faye. Let's talk a little bit about this past figure skating Olympics, mainly about the women's part of it. So the women's figure skating at the Beijing Olympics has finally concluded with mildly unexpected results, and the media is buzzing with everything that happened. Now, I don't really want to talk about the results themselves, they're easy to Google, or the Valieva doping scandal. Full disclaimer, I personally, as most athletes out there, do not support doping the athletes. That is not fair, but that's all I'm gonna say on the matter in this video. In this video, instead, I wanted to talk a little bit about something else. With everything that's happened and things like Terry's comments on Kamila's skate and Sasha's display at the award ceremony, I've been talking a lot via private messages and just have people who know about my origin reaching out, basically asking to explain Russia to them. So I thought I would just put this all in the video and share it with the rest of you as well. For those of you that don't know, I am a Russian-born American, so my mom was born and raised and lived for most of her life in Russia. She doesn't anymore. And my father is American. I grew up in Russia doing sports. Now, full disclaimer, I didn't do figure skating. The sport I used to do was rhythmic gymnastics, which I gotta admit is probably similarly intense. There is a lot of animosity right now between the Western athletes and fans and the Russian sports federations, Russian fans and Russian athletes. They all kind of hating on each other. And just generally a lot of aggression happening in the media and especially on the social media. Now, it's easy to understand why the West is mad. However, many of you who were somewhat exposed to Russian media, at least in its translation, have probably seen those articles that are praising Terry and the team. You also have probably seen comments from Russian supporters that are really angry and really upset. And maybe wondered what's happening, why is there such a breach, why is there no understanding, why don't Russians just cancel Terry because of this whole doping situation and just, ban the whole thing and be done with it. Like, it's obvious, right? Wrong. As someone who grew up in Russia and doing sports, I'm gonna try and explain why there's such a gap and why there's such a huge misunderstanding between the cultures. You see, there's a vast difference in how sports work in these countries. If we take the US or any Western country for that matter, sports are something you would do for fun, for health, for leisure, entertainment, sometimes as a job if you're a professional athlete. If you're doing sports in Russia, you are serving your country. Sports are a matter of national pride. Sports are something that is wildly advertised, and not just football, soccer, popular sports. Figure skating is streamed on national TV. Those Olympians come back, the president of the country is likely to meet up with them. They get awarded all sorts of useful things like homes, cars, that kind of stuff as a reward from the government. A lot of times their training is sponsored by the government. They're there at the Olympics or any international event to represent their country, and for them it's a matter of national pride. When you do sports in Russia, you don't just do it for yourself, you do it for your coaches, you do it for your school, and most importantly, you do it for your country. Another cultural aspect that's important to understand for this conversation is that Russians are brought up to be fighters. As a kid, especially if you're doing sports or any kind of country-serving activity, you are told repeatedly over and over again. Since I was 4 years old, I was told, I'm doing this for my country, I need to be strong, I need to be a fighter, I'm tired, doesn't matter. Are you a fighter? Do you want to win the medals? Do you want to make your country proud? You gotta keep training. The worst possible thing you can be as a Russian is weak. A lot of Western nations tend to perceive Russians as rude or, at the mildest form, a little intense, but Russians are mostly just trying to show to everybody else that they're strong, that they're not weak, because strong is what you want to be. Strong is what's respected. You gotta be a fighter. This is why Russian coaching can get a little brutal at times, and this is why Terry is celebrated as a national hero. All that matters in Russia for sports is results. Are you delivering results or are you not? Nobody cares about your personal happiness. Nobody cares about your mental health. That's not even a big of a thing in Russia. I'm gonna get back to it later before you go starting to write hate comments under this video. You gotta deliver results. You gotta bring medals to your country, and literally that's the most important thing that a coach can achieve, that an athlete can achieve. That's all that matters in the Russian eye. So if you do bring medals, you're a national hero. You're celebrated, you're awarded. If you don't bring medals, best case scenario, you're just ignored and nobody cares about you. Worst case scenario, you canceled and, that's it. You go. To not generalize too much, I'm just gonna talk about my personal experience for a second. Again, I'm not saying that they still do it. I did sports quite a while ago in Russia, so things might be different now, but in my time, when I was a kid, from 4 years old to 10 years old, I did rhythmic gymnastics. In my personal experience, I, for example, would casually get whipped with a jumping rope if I didn't straighten my knees all the way or if I didn't point my feet hard enough. We would have a coach or a ballet teacher stand next to us when we do développé, which is when you need to lift your leg up and hold it there. They would go and hold an open safety pin under the leg to make sure that we don't get lazy and drop it. If I tell this story to my US friends, they almost faint. This is like full-on child abuse. In Russia, that builds character. It's fairly typical for Russian school kids to get yelled at, berated, humiliated by their school teachers, for example. And that is explained with the teacher cares about you because the teacher cares that you deliver good results, that you get good grades. So there's that common understanding that if somebody cares about your results, it means they care about you. This is like one of the strongest form of care, basically. This is why there's such a vastly different understanding and interpretation of things that are happening with Terry and her team in the Western countries and in Russia. To take an example from this past Olympic performance, when Kamila skated off her basically failed long program, is all over the news now. Oh my god, Terry said, why did you stop fighting? Why did you give up after the axel? Why did you give up? Americans interpret this as she's a callous woman, she doesn't care, she doesn't offer any emotional support to her skater who just basically lived through the worst moment of their entire career and possibly their life. In Russian interpretation, Iteri is a woman who cares deeply about her student because she cares that her girl fights, that her girl delivers the results. She seems heartbroken and disappointed that Kamila stopped fighting. Not that she lost, that she stopped fighting. Because remember, a Russian needs to be a fighter. The worst thing you can do is be weak and give up. And this is why in social media you often see Western people commenting, they don't care about their girls, they don't care about the skaters, they only care about medals, they only care about their own fame, which is legit. The Russian view on that is they care deeply about these girls because they care that the girls deliver good results and make their country proud, which is the best thing you can do as a Russian athlete. Let's take a second to talk about mental health. In Russia, especially in the older generation, like people my age and younger, care about it quite a bit more. It's becoming more of a topic these days. But if you take our parents, and especially older, which are about the age the coaches are generally in sports, there is not really such thing as mental health. There is a kind of a common saying that shrinks are for psychos, and that, if you're sad, if you're depressed, you just have too much free time. Go clean your kitchen, find another job. You have too much free time, otherwise you wouldn't have time to be sad. This is something that you can hear very commonly from grandmas, from aunties, and just generally kind of from the older generation of Russians. Which again comes from the same expectations for Russian kids growing up and Russian adults and how they're meant to be. They're meant to be strong, they're meant to be fighters. They cannot afford to be weak, to have mental health issues, to have depression, to have anxiety. They just can't. Another important thing to understand about Russian mentality is how do I say it? There's a big asterisk there, but they're not very big on rules, or rather on following them. It is quite common, not saying I'm like scared to generalize here, but it's fairly common to get celebrated for being able to outsmart the system and kind of go around the guidelines.
Naughty, naughty.
It's part of the national mentality, if I dare say. There's literally a common saying in Russian that roughly translates to "you're not a thief if you're not caught." Keeping all this in mind, let's get back to the situation at hand, the Olympics. I'm fairly immersed in the Russian media and social media and skating communities as much as I am in the Americans, and it's just mind-blowing to me how different they are. It's like literally living in two separate universes that do not interlace at any point. There are just no points of connection. It's insane. Let me explain. The Western take on the situation is there's a doping scandal. Straight up. There's a positive test. It's a fact. And that fact is what undermines the entire spirit of sportsmanship. It's a crime against fair sportsmanship, and it undermines the whole value and the whole basically purpose of doing the Olympics or any international sports competition, because if people don't play fair, how can we expect to have a fair competition, and what's the point of competing if it's not fair? From Russian standpoint, it's an annoying and unfortunate inconvenience that keeps them from getting their medals, which, remember, is what matters most in Russian sports. That's kind of a mild way of putting it. The more intense way of putting it is a lot of people believe, and I mean truly, genuinely believe, that the whole thing is basically a scheme and a setup from, for whatever reason, Americans. I don't know why Americans specifically would have an interest in it, since American girls were not really contenders for medals this year, but for some reason Russian mind, West, I guess, is mostly represented by the Americans. So they believe that it's a scheme to set up Russia, to sabotage Russia, and that's why you can see all these comments like, oh, well, you know, the dose was just a little bit. It's not gonna make, even if you give it to your skaters, they never will skate as good as Russians. I'm sure you've all seen those comments. Basically, Russians played as this is not a big deal. What's a way bigger deal is Kamila's career and Kamila's life getting destroyed, and Russians are not getting their medals. On the Western side, you hear, poor child, she's getting basically abused. Yeah, she's getting mistreated and her life is getting ruined by her coaching team. From the Russian side, you can hear, poor child, she's being mistreated, her life is being ruined by the Americans. Russians have a strong sense of us against them. I, as a child, have been told in school, Russia is the greatest country in the world and all the other countries are jealous of us. That's a literal quote translated into English of what's been said to me as a child in my school lessons. So to Western viewers, Kamila is basically an unfortunate child whose adults should have known better. For Russians, Kamila is a martyr and a national hero who got sacrificed to the evil West. The common theme for comments you can see online from Russian supporters is, you will never skate as good as Kamila or any Russian girls, no matter how many drugs you take. Or a more common one, you just cannot beat Russia in any other way. You know you have no chance, so you have to play unfairly, and you had to sabotage Kamila and sabotage our country. Westerners are mad because they want to fight the bad sportsmanship. They want to fight for the fair sportsmanship and the fair competitions. Russian are mad because their national pride is being insulted. To most Westerners, it's basically Eteri and her team who destroyed ultimately Kamila's career and possibly the rest of her life in sports. For Russians, it's not Eteri. Eteri is a national hero. It's us. We are the ones who destroyed Kamila, the non-Russians. Eteri will probably always be a national hero in Russia, no matter how many doping scandals you can throw at her. Because remember at the beginning of this video, the thing that matters most, the way that human value is measured in Russian culture, is by what results you deliver. And if Eteri does one thing well in her life, is she does deliver. This is why you probably see all these angry comments from the Russian fans and Russian supporters that are really mad and really upset, and they're attacking you, and they're want to tell you all the rude words that they know in English, and they're just so aggressive and so mad is because they are truly mad. They blame you, me, all of us non-Russians for what happened to Kamila, and they're really, really upset. I just wanted to provide this explanation of cultural differences to help you understand why these arguments happen and why you see these articles praising Eteri and why people are so mad at Westerners in Russia. This is not to attack anybody, this is not to excuse anybody, this is just to bring a little bit more understanding of the cultural differences between the Western countries and the Russian sports, and maybe help us all be a little bit more tolerant, understanding that a lot of this is literally a cultural difference. As a little bonus note, let's just take a sec to talk about Sasha. So I've watched today that entire backstage display before the award ceremony, and a lot of people, because I speak fluent Russian, have asked me to translate for them, and now there are a lot of posts on like Reddit and other websites that kind of provide a rough translation of what was happening. So I just wanted to throw out there that even I personally am struggling to translate it in a way that truly conveys the extent of this display. I'm just gonna say this. As a teenager, if I ever dared to speak like this to any adult in my life, let alone a coach or a teacher, let's just say I would not make it to the age that I am now safely. That's all I'm gonna say on the matter. Watch it for yourself if you want, and as usual, thank you so much for being with me. Hope this was helpful, hope this was informative, and as always, I'll see you in the next video. Oh, and yeah, please be nice in the comments.